Hello, Mr. Koble back again, and today we are going to be talking about probably one of the hardest units and subjects for our 8th grade US history class, which is government. It's going to be a lot of facts, a lot of really important things that we need to learn, and it's not just storytelling. So just get some paper and pencil ready and let's get going. So some quick vocab before we start is one of the words is federal. So we're going to say this word a lot. Federal decisions are things that affect the entire country. So our federal government operates in Washington, D.C., and it makes decisions for all 50 states or the nation as a whole. Now so those are made in Washington, D.C. This is Congress, this is the president, this is the Supreme Court. Now there's also state decisions. And these are things that only affect the individual state at the state level. We're going to talk about this a lot later, but these are two terms we'll look at now. So some history. We know that in 1781, the United States passed the Articles of Confederation, which is America's first try and really first mistake at trying to make a government for the United States, the new United States of America. Overall, the Articles of Confederation are very weak. The federal government really has no power under these, but the state government has a lot of power. So this is one of the problems is the feds can't really do anything and the states can do whatever they want. So overall, here's the reasons the Articles of Confederation were weak. The feds couldn't pass any taxes, the states had most of the power, there's only one branch of government and it wasn't even that effective. So this is all things we know. So after Shays' Rebellion, the leaders of the country decide, you know what, man, these Articles of Confederation ain't cutting it, chief. So they call for a convention in 1787. And some speakers are saying, yes, it was clear that they're weak. Some believe we need 3 branches of government. Some say it needs to be balanced. Some say you need to limit powers of government even more. There's a lot of ideas being thrown out here. So Washington says, all right, well, we need to start something. So how are we going to start this new document for how we're going to run the country? I bet we give it a name. So they do. They gave it the U.S. Constitution. And all the Constitution is, it's about 7 pages or so, if you put it in a Word document. No, it's a lot more than that. But basically, it is just a collection of guidelines and laws and an outline of how the government's going to work and what the responsibilities and powers of each branch of the government is. That's all it is. So we have this idea called the Constitution. Well, who's going to be in power and who's going to be in charge? Hamilton's like, yes, how about kings? And they all go, no. Y'all, it took me longer than you think to make this slide. I don't want to talk about exactly how many minutes, but more than necessary. So we thought we shouldn't have kings. What if we divide and separate the powers of government into 3 groups called branches? So these are the 3 branches of government we're going to go over. The first one is legislative. This is the group of government that writes and votes on laws. So this is Congress at the federal. You also have the executive branch. This branch enforces and approves laws. Pretty straightforward. This is the one that signs the law and signs the bill into being a law, and then is responsible for enforcing it. And then we have our judicial branch, which is our Supreme Court. They interpret the laws and make sure that they are constitutional and they're fair. So starting off with the legislative branch, the legislative branch at any level is responsible for writing and approving laws. That's their job. At the federal level, this is called Congress. So Congress is split up into 2 groups. So I say like this for Congress, and what does Congress do? Congress writes and approves laws. So it's split up into 2 groups. One group is called the House of Representatives. And I go like this for House of Representatives. So in this branch of Congress, you have 435 representatives, and states gain representatives based on all of the people that live there or state population. So states gain representatives based on their population. Well, and this helps big states for the most part, right? California, New York, Florida, the states that have a lot of people living in it have more power in the House of Representatives, as they should, to be honest. But Mr. Koble, how do we count? Like, how do the states know how many people live in each state? Well, every 10 years, every state in the US has to do something called the census, where they count each individual person that lives in the state. And at the end of the census, they say, okay, we have this many people, therefore we have this many representatives. And the census is really, 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 really important. There's another video somewhere in my channel. I'm not gonna link it because I only got 10 minutes before my next class starts, but y'all can find it on my channel. It's really important to do your census every 10 years. Anyway, House of Representatives based on population. And what do? The House writes and approves laws. So then we have the other branch of Congress, which writes and approves laws, called the Senate. And this is what I do for the Senate. What does the Senate do? The Senate writes and approves laws. But the Senate's interesting because every state only gets 2 senators. So what that means is it helps small states. So in the Senate, since every state only gets 2 senators, both California and like Montana have the same amount of voting power in the Senate. So if a bill wanted to get passed, it would have to pass in both the House of Representatives and it would have to pass in the Senate. And then if it passes both of those, it goes on to the president has to sign it and it becomes a law. That's like, there's more to it than that. There's more steps than that. There's more things than that. But that's like the basic 8th grade version of how government works. Or doesn't work. So Senate 2, House of Representatives, population. Okay, Congress is where the politicians we elect write and vote on laws. Congress writes and approves laws. That's their job. Not gonna play the video because I don't want to get demonetized. I want to make a little cash off this. For a bill to become a law, it has to be written and voted on in both branches of Congress. The House and the Senate. Okay. That's legislative. This is executive. Now we're on to the executive branch. Executive, so if you needed to pause that and go back, you can. Okay. Oh, I got more time than I think. I'm fast. Hey, look at me. So executive branch, this is your president, like you put on a suit jacket. That's what I do. That's the hand motion for president. So the executive branch enforces laws. And the people in the executive branch is the president, the vice president, and everyone that helps them run the government. That is their job. So this is the Obama administration in 2008, I want to say. So this would be the executive branch. You have the president in charge, you have the vice president, and then the cabinet, which is the rest of them. With every new president, you have a new administration. So that was the Obama administration. This is the Trump administration in 2016 through 2020. There were a lot of people going in and out of it, but for the most part, each one of these members helps run a different part of the government. And they all have to be approved by the Senate. They have to be the Senate gets to approve each cabinet member. Speaking of cabinet member, what is the cabinet? The cabinet, or I like to go like this because they serve underneath the president. But if you want to think of it like you're opening a cabinet and you're like, ooh, defense, military, housing, treasury, there's all these different places. So the cabinet are the secretaries that run the different parts of the executive branch because the president can't do everything himself. That's a lot of work. So in the Obama administration, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. She dealt with foreign affairs. We had, I don't really know who the rest of these people are. I know Arne Duncan is the Secretary of Education. He's in charge of education in the United States. So once again, there's all these different people for all these different roles. The president can't do it all himself. So here are the different departments of the executive branch that the cabinet is responsible for. You don't have to write all these down. They're just examples. So you have the Secretary of State. They deal with other countries and foreign affairs. Treasury works with money. Maybe they can do something about inflation right now because it's 2021. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, they deal with housing. Maybe they can make more housing because I would like to own a home at some point, but it's probably not gonna happen. I'm a teacher. The vice president, this is the only one I do want you to write down. The vice president becomes the president if they die or if they are incapacitated for a period of time. So when Trump got COVID for about a week, Vice President Pence became acting president, and that's how that works. The only other responsibility they really have in the Constitution, they can take on extra responsibilities if they want to. Usually vice presidents have like one thing they really key in on. But for the most part, they don't really do much. It's changing, they're doing more now. But the big thing is that there's a tie in the Senate. So every Senate, there's only 2 senators for every state. So that means there are 100 senators right now. If there is a 50-50 split, the vice president is the tiebreaker. Usually they'll probably vote for the bill or against it, depending on which side the president's on. Anyway, the other things included in this are FBI, CIA, DEA, all of that jazz are included in the executive branch. And that takes us to the Supreme Court and the judicial branch. Judicial branch judges laws. So you can think of like a gavel, like Supreme Court, judicial, Judge Judy. And middle schoolers would be really good at the judicial branch because they're really good at judging people. Okay, so their responsibility is for interpreting laws and acting and saying, is this law fair? Is it constitutional? That's their job. So the Supreme Court also changes. It's kind of fluid, but not nearly as much as the other branches. So in 2011, Elena Kagan, which has the arrow, or 2012, was nominated by President Obama to the Supreme Court, and the Senate approved her, and she became a Supreme Court justice. In 2016, Anthony Scalia died. So when Trump became, and I'm skipping a lot of the scandal and controversy here, but when Trump became president in 2017, he nominated Neil Gorsuch, which is this guy with the arrow, to be the next Supreme Court justice. And so once again, the Senate, which was Republican-led at the time, approved the nomination, and he became a Supreme Court justice. After that, I believe Justice Kennedy resigned. He said, I don't want to do this anymore. That's not Justice Kennedy. I know that. That's Justice Kennedy. Is that Justice Kennedy? Is that, I don't know. Doesn't matter. So President Trump nominated Justice Brett Kavanaugh to be the next Supreme Court justice, and the Senate approved it, and he became Supreme Court justice. And there's a lot of scandal there, and we're going to go over that later, but that's basically how the system works. When Ruth Bader Ginsburg died 8 days before the election, the President Trump, even though he was still president, even though the election was going on, was able to nominate Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, and the Senate approved that, and she became justice. So they will serve till life. Now, we had a judge come by in our classroom and said, do you guys know who the Supreme Court justices are? And none of them knew any of them. So I think it's really important that you guys know the Supreme Court justices, so you're aware of things going on. So Supreme Court justices serve for life or until they want to retire. So some of these people have been around for a really long time. So Samuel Alito, and I put the political party here, and it's for measure, but Supreme Court used to not be very political in nature at all. Like judges would get approved, 98 senators vote yes, 2 vote no. It was really not a political arena, but recently in the last 5 years, it's grown a lot more political, unfortunately. But so Samuel Alito was appointed, and Chief Justice John Roberts were both Republicans appointed by President Bush II from 2000 to 2008. So generally, Republican presidents vote for conservative judges, Democrat presidents vote for liberal judges. Before that, we had Clarence Thomas, who was appointed by the first Bush president in 1991, something around there. First African-American Supreme Court justice. And he's known for not talking, which is pretty funny. But he's been around for 30-something years now. It's pretty incredible. Stephen Breyer, Democrat appointed by President Clinton, Democratic president in the 90s as well. They've been around for a while. A couple other ones, Sonia Sotomayor, appointed by President Obama. She's the first Latina judge. And then Elena Kagan was also appointed by Obama. She's actually the second female Jewish judge. I messed that up, but 2 of our Supreme Court justices. The 3 most recent ones all came through the Trump administration. So Neil Gorsuch was appointed by Trump in 2017. Brett Kavanaugh was a very controversial pick because he had some demons in his past and kind of got let off the hook a little bit. But he was also appointed by Trump in 2018, yeah, 18 or 19. And then most recently, Amy Coney Barrett in 2020, right as the election happened, was appointed by Trump and nominated by the Senate and approved to be Supreme Court Justice. So those are your Supreme Court justices, and you need to write those down. You need to know who these people are. Overall, Supreme Court is sometimes called the most dangerous branch because they can make really big, important decisions. And you'll learn this in 12th grade, but it's called judicial, there's judicial restraint and there's judicial activism. So some judges don't want to make big decisions that change the country because they think Congress should do that. Other judges are more willing to make big, bold stances in terms of the law and what is legal and what's not legal. So sometimes you're like, well, Mr. Koble, why would judges don't make laws? Why should they be allowed to do that? Well, because sometimes it's for the better. In 1950, the Warren Supreme Court, which is led by Earl Warren, ended segregation in Brown versus Board, where they said that segregation is wholly against the 14th Amendment. Segregation is unconstitutional. You need to integrate schools. It is illegal to have separate schools. And they decided, and that ended segregation. So very big changes can come through the Supreme Court. Other more negative rulings in 1857, the Dred Scott decision, I'll say that, made slavery legal in all parts of the United States as opposed to just in the South or just in the slave states. So these decisions have really big impacts. More recently in 2015, Supreme Court said that gay marriage was legal in all 50 states because laws against same-sex marriage were against the 14th Amendment and unconstitutional and targeted a protected group. So therefore, it was unconstitutional to ban same-sex marriage. So the Supreme Court makes really big decisions. So if you need to go back and re-listen to any of that, rewrite it down, feel free. It's a lot of information at once, I know. But we're going to test your knowledge. This is Juan Vargas. He still is, a representative from San Diego, California. San Diego has 5 representatives go to the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. on the federal level. And what branch of government is he part of? So pause it, yes. And here's the answer. He is part of Congress, which writes and approves laws, and he is in the House of Representatives. Cool, so that's his job. I gotta be faster. President Joe Biden, president. He is, what branch is he part of? 3, 2, 1. He's part of the executive branch. He enforces laws with his cabinet. Sonia Sotomayor, Supreme Court Justice. What branch is she part of? She is part of the judicial branch. She is a judge in the Supreme Court. Cool. So that is for the branches of government. I have a class starting about now. So I'm going to cap this video on the 3 branches of government. And the next video, which I'll be uploading probably shortly, is about checks and balances. And how do we make sure that these branches of government don't abuse their power or get too much power? And how do they share power? So that's what the next part's going to be about. But like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz, share the video, get me money. Bye.